Hi guys, welcome to another edition of our KlunCast, KlunCast number 7 today. Here we have we're here with Coach Andre Klun,
Hey guys, how's everybody doing?
and we also have a very special guest, Coach Ty Johnson.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Thanks for asking me to join.
So for you guys who don't know, Coach Ty Johnson, he is the head coach for Kingsway boys basketball team. It's an it's an honor to have you here with us, Coach. And let's just get right to the questions here.
Sounds good.
So, first question that we have here is, how was basketball introduced in your life, and where did your desire to be a coach come from?
So I grew up playing basketball, as I'm sure all of us did. But the unique thing is my dad was actually my basketball coach all the way throughout high school. So he's currently a college basketball coach as well here in Washington State in the US. But for 14 years at the high school that um, obviously I went through. He was the basketball coach there. And so I grew up from the time I can remember with him being my coach, and then obviously played throughout my career. And when that ended, uh, it's funny, me and my two other brothers um, are all coaches. And so I think we just kind of fell into the family line of loving to compete and seeing my dad do it for so many years, and so now we're all in the same business.
That's nice. When you were a player,
Nice.
did you play at Kingsway or?
No, funny enough, we actually played for a we played in the same league, but and we hated Kingsway because we Kingsway is a private school here in America, and so that means that they can get kind of anyone in the greater Vancouver area can choose to go to Kingsway, which is awesome for me now. But when we were playing them, it was like, man, they get like three new players every year. And in our school is just like we got the same guys every single year because it's all based on location for who can attend your school. So yeah, we were not fans of Kingsway. And then funny enough, here I am reaping the benefits of what was such a disdain for me in high school.
Nice, nice. And where do your brothers coach?
So my older brother is actually one of my varsity assistants here, and
Okay.
then my younger brother is a assistant coach for my dad at Clark College here in Vancouver.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And you have three Team Clone players from Brazil on your team.
Not
Uh,
only on my team, but they live in my basement downstairs. So
yeah.
yeah, I know
How's
those boys well.
how has that experience been having them there? Matthew's going through to his third year now. Daniel and Thiago are going into their second year. How has the experience with them been on and off the court?
I can start with on the court. The biggest thing is just the style of basketball that they play in Rio is just very different than the style that we play here over in the States, at least on in our program. And so it's definitely a learning curve when they get here for the first time, or even when they get back for the first couple of weeks. And it's not that one is any better than the other, but it's just kind of learning how to play within what each program tries to emphasize or what each program um, tries to play that best fits kind of their personnel. And so the one thing is the boys just play extremely hard. I don't know if it's because they just grew up in a different, you know, lifestyle than a lot of our other players. Um, but they're awesome to have on the court. They're very coachable, and like most players in at the high school level, it's a lot of just teaching and getting them to try to not let their emotions control how they go about playing. But they've improved a ton. They put so much work in, which is something that not all high school players, at least here, do a ton either. And so they're a joy. I mean, more than anything, if you can have guys that will put in a ton of work to get better and then will play as hard as they possibly can. Like as a coach, you can't ask much more than that. And then off the court, they're just goobers, man. They're such goofy kids. And I don't know if it's like just the culture of Brazil, but man, they they are such high energy kids, which is awesome. But super respectful too. They really understand the line of kind of where authority and friendship changes, which is nice too. As a young head coach, I'm only 27, and so that can be hard for a 17-year-old kid to really understand. Of like, okay, we're friendly right now and kind of messing around as friends would, but then like when practice starts or when I'm coaching them, they can flip a switch very quick of like, okay, this is my coach now. And so then the level of just respect or the way you respond to things changes, and they do a great job with that.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, they have a lot of great things to say about Kingsway, about the program, about you. They're definitely having a lot of fun. And it's for sure those three kids that are there. There's some of the kids that we have here that uh, definitely understand that distinction between when to just have fun and when to be serious about everything. So it's great to hear. Great to hear that they're doing the same thing over there.
Yeah. And now, coach, just jump a little bit more into your career. Um, so we've been looking at you've been coaching there for 4 years now, coaching Kingsway for 4 years, and you already have titles such as league championships, I believe two, and district championships as well, and two state tournament bids. What is the feeling of accomplishing those like accolades at a relatively early stage of your career?
Well, as you guys know, if you have talent, winning games is a lot easier than if you don't have talent. And the first 2 years, we had pretty good teams. We just had really good players. One kid, Giovanni Evanson, who's a 6'5" point guard. He's playing college basketball right now, with just a really good collective cast. Uh, Allowed us to just do a lot of different things that we can't do as much now, just because we don't have. Now we're young, so I think that this team and this group, especially like Matthew's senior year, we could be pretty good. But just the talent level that those first 2 years really allowed us to do a lot. Uh, but yeah, I don't think if you can get high school players at this level, if you can have enough talent and you can get kids to play extremely hard on what you deem as non-negotiables within your program, then you can be a lot better than a vast majority of other high school programs here. Because unless you're playing in like New York or Seattle at the biggest schools in the area, then yeah, you need to have a good amount of size, a good amount of skill. But at our level, just get the kids to play extremely hard and get them to play within the parameters that make players effective. Really just the basics. It's the things that all high school kids think are boring, but when they go to a personal trainer, they don't do any of those things. So that's a challenge. But if you can accomplish that, you can have a team that's really effective. It might not look sexy, but it can translate to wins.
Great.
Yeah, for
And
sure. And um, thinking about that, going off of what you're saying, um, when you when you're building your roster, like I'm sure you guys have tryouts and new kids coming into the school, um, and especially for Brazilian kids that came over, and maybe in the future if some other kids come over. What would you say are the main things that you look for? Um, Not just skill wise, which obviously is important, but also um, behavior and attitude and all that kind of stuff. For kids that want to play in high school, what are the main things that you look at?
No, that's a good question. Behavior wise, it's pretty simple. Each kid, I never want a kid to try and be someone that they're not, but each kid does need to find a way to do a few things. One is be coachable, meaning like you don't have to be the guy, at least for me, and each coach is different, but you don't have to be the guy which the Brazilians are. They're like, yes, coach, after every single coaching point. Um, our best player, his name's Jackson. He's extremely coachable, but he he's learning how to deal with his emotions right now. So he'll just be so, you can just tell, frustrated in his face. And it's not just this like, looking you in the eyes like, yes, coach, and it doesn't look like anything is affecting him. But coachability for me means that your behavior changes. Meaning, if I'm telling you to stop jumping in the air before you pass every single ball, I don't necessarily care how that exchange goes. Now, there needs to be a level of respect, but each kid is different. But as long as you are growing in stop doing that behavior and actually being coachable, that translates to what you're doing on the floor, that's great. So that would be the number one thing. Um, Obviously, being a good teammate is the other thing as well. High school kids can be very about themselves many times. And so just a selflessness attitude, I would say, is the second biggest thing. In terms of on the court stuff, I mean, the number one thing, if you can shoot, you'll find minutes. If you can shoot the ball, you have a spot on the floor. It doesn't matter if you're Matthew size. It doesn't matter if you're Tiago size, which that's probably about a 8 to 9 inch discrepancy between those two boys' sizes. But man, if you can shoot, scoring is just scoring is so difficult at any level. And if you can find a way to just make it less challenging, and anytime that we can get you space, it's a efficient shot for us, that's huge. So that would be my first thing. And then it really just kind of depends, I would say, based on what each team's scheme is, and what each team's like personnel is. Like, I don't need our big to be an awesome ball handler. I don't need our point guard to be this amazing offensive rebounder. So then it starts to get kind of individualized. But a few things that I would say are non-negotiables within our program that every player we make them adhere to is you have to be able to contain the ball on defense. And that could be, for a point guard, a pretty hard cover. For our big, not as much, but you have to be able to keep the ball in front of you. And then we have just a few non-negotiables offensively, which is you're playing on balance and under control. You pass. See, these all seem so boring, but they're what's effective. I tell the kids all the time, you can't get bored if you're getting better. And so catching the ball with two hands, passing the ball with two hands, talking constantly. Like, there are things that aren't necessarily based on how skilled or talented you are. It's just a choice. Like, I don't have to be really skilled to get to 2 feet every time I get inside the paint. I just need to be disciplined enough to do that when I do get there. And so those are the things that you can really hammer in on your players, and it can become a really effective thing quickly. at the beginning of any season that doesn't necessarily depend on how much time they put in the gym during the off season.
Yeah, for sure. And continuing on that, I know every year you guys have to adapt to what kind of roster you have. Obviously, in high school that changes year to year. But if you're thinking about if you had your pick of what kind of players you would have, what would be your preferred style, offensively and defensively?
Um, if you guys watch, do you guys watch any American college basketball?
Oh yeah, a lot.
So then, like any Virginia player on defense,
Yeah,
we because at our level, talent comes and goes, and the ability to score is so much just dependent on who is in your program for the 2 years that they're upperclassmen. But the one constant is if you can guard, you can play with anyone. And so that is by far the number one thing for me, at least as a coach. That's just kind of who I was as a player, and is my personality. And it's just you have to be able to be a tough kid and endure uncomfortable situations in the course of a game. And so much of that is just like on the defensive end. Are you tired? Still talk. Are you tired? You still have to move your feet. Are you tired? That's not an excuse to get picked off a screen. So that would be my non-negotiable, and kind of the program that we always try to instill early on every season is just you have to have a very strong will as a player to just keep us in the game regardless of if we're not making shots that day, which is great because it seems like every Brazilian that comes over here, that's who they are. They're just pit bulls. So well, Thiago might not be a pit bull, but hopefully we'll get him
yeah.
there. We're getting him there.
Hey, yeah,
Yes.
that's what we've been trying to work with him, getting that mentality. If he does, he'd definitely make a big jump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
the thing with Thiago too is if you can find Thiago naturally just has a lot of ability. He's got great feel. He's obviously the tallest and the longest, which you can't coach height, you know. And so if he can learn how to take some of the aspects from those two other boys, then he has the highest ceiling. And the other two boys say that all the time and hold him accountable on that. And he's grown in that. He's extremely young. But it is exciting to when you see kids that have a 6'2", 6'3" frame, are extremely long, have pretty good ball skills, and it's like, man, when we get you to just be a dog, you're going to be an extremely good player. But they're 16, they're 15, so it takes time, and you got to understand it's a slow process.
Yeah. And so speaking of recruitment, I know that you've placed players in D2 and D3 level so far, and at the college level. And we wanted to ask you, what are like the qualities you believe college coaches are looking for in athletes nowadays? So we talked a little bit about what you've been looking for your recruits. What do you think is this, like something else that the players nowadays have to have in order to be able to play college ball?
That's a good question. I think college basketball compared to high school basketball is a very niche sport unless you are just a freak athlete and are really, really, really talented, which just isn't the reality a lot of the times, at least within our program. We've had one kid who's actually another assistant coach that played Division I ball and played professionally over in Europe. But he's 6'7" and he could stroke it and could also dribble the ball. And if we had guys like that coming through our program all the time, then I wouldn't need to. I could just sit on the sideline and say, "Tip it up, let's play." Um, but I think the ability to find your niche as a player in college basketball is huge. You're not going to be the guy that's being asked to do everything. Now, obviously, each program, each coach is going to have their non-negotiables. Like, you can't be an absolutely terrible defender and be put on the floor. Like, you have to be comparable in a few aspects. But if you're a great stick shooter, but you don't have a great handle, you'll find minutes. You know, if you're an amazing passer, and can be just an amazing on-ball defender, but you don't shoot it great, you'll find minutes. You know, so you just have to find kind of a few things that you're elite at. You don't have to be elite at everything, but you have to be elite at something at the college level. You can't just be okay at everything. It would almost be more beneficial to be elite at one thing and then below average in a lot of other things, I would say, than be average across the board. And so with high schoolers, and again, I keep going back to it, and especially where basketball is moving nowadays, if you can be a phenomenal shooter, you'll find time on the floor. It's just shooting is so difficult to become a really, really good shooter, especially at the college level with how quick things are. So yeah, that's what I would say. Find your niche and find something that you can become elite at. And then a coach will be able to plug you in within a college program um, to be effective.
Mhm. Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
And go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Andre.
Now, I was just gonna ask, Coach, being that your father coaches in college and you coach in high school, has he recruited any of your kids?
Um, he has. None of my personal players have played for Clark, but he has had conversation with some of our kids, and there have been a decent amount of Kingsway kids that have played at Clark College, like Matt Garrison. He is an assistant on the JV team right now, and he's 25 years old, but he played at Clark College. But there hasn't actually, within the time I've been here, been a player that has gone on to play for him. Which I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just not the specific guy that he's looking for. But yeah, if he ever does, then man, he's got a good insight with who they are as a player. So
For sure.
Yeah. And another thing about so we were talking about earlier about the district championships and the state tournament bids. And I got curious here because we had coaches from Florida telling us how their state, you know, tournament goes about. So if you could just give us a quick run out of how does the Washington State playoffs and like regular season goes about.
yeah, so there's obviously different classifications. Like we're a smaller school here in Washington, so we're not gonna play, the big school in Seattle. So each state has classifications, and we're deemed as we're kind of like right in the middle here in Washington within school sizes. But you obviously have a league, and we have 14 teams in our league, and the top 5 go to playoffs, and then from there are 2 leagues combine to make a district. And if you are then a top 3 team within that district, then you go to regionals. And the regional game is a winner out game. So if you win, then you get your state tournament bid, which is the top 12 teams. They go to the state tournament. If you lose your regional game, then you're done. So you have to go through 3 different rounds of different playoffs in order to make the state tournament. And then dependent on where your seed is in that state tournament, you either get 2 games, 2 losses before you're eliminated, or if you're a lower seed, 1 loss, and then you're eliminated.
Nice, nice. And just our last question here as we get to the end. What's your expectation for this season for the team? How far do you think you guys can go? What do you think? How do you think the year is going to go for you?
We're pretty young team right now, and inexperienced. But we have, the nice thing is we're young and we're inexperienced, but we have talent, which I'll always take. We had 4 senior starters that we lost last year, and we only have 1 returning starter this year, who's Jackson. He'll be our best player. But the junior class right now and a sophomore class right now are really, really good. And so this year, what we've said within our coaching staff is we need to learn how to win this year, and then the following year we do that a lot. And so we played a ton of summer ball games this year. We played 27 games in the span of 6 weeks just to get them experience at the varsity level. And so hopefully that will translate. And by the time league play comes around, which is usually the back half of the season, and those are the games that really matter, we'll be a bit more experienced, and we'll play a little bit older than what our age actually shows, so that we can then make a run, because I think we can be pretty good, and surprise some people this year, just because everyone's going to see we lost our 2 all league players from last year. No one knows who anyone on our team will really be other than Jackson. And so I think we could make some noise come playoff time. And then going into the following year with Matthew's senior year, I think we'd be pretty good.
Awesome, Coach. We want to thank you to take some time to be on our podcast. Like I said, the Brazilian kids that are over there are really enjoying their time on and off the court. They have a lot of great things to say about the school, about you personally too, and we'll be cheering on you guys from here. Hoping you have a great year, and hopefully we've talked about possibly next year you guys coming over to Brazil, playing a tournament here. Hopefully we can make that happen, and all the best to you guys throughout the year.
Yeah, I don't know how much focus they would have on basketball if we go over to Rio, but that's fine. It'd be a good experience for the boys.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Coach. We thank you guys who are watching right now. Yeah, this was our 7th KlunCast here with Coach Ty Johnson from Kingsway. And yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, fellas.
Awesome, Coach. Thanks again, and thanks for everybody who's watching, and we'll see you again soon.